I'm Chris Duke, and this is Motorz. A few episodes ago, we showed you how to install Alpine's awesome IVA W505 head unit on our project truck. This thing has everything. It's got iPhone integration, iPod integration, satellite radio, GPS navigation, and a big touchscreen. The problem is that with our F-150 XLT, the audio system in it is just absolutely horrible. And nothing sounds good in this thing unless listening to a clock radio is your idea of good sound. So today on Motorz, we're going to show you how to solve that problem with a complete audio upgrade from Alpine Electronics that complements that head unit and show you what makes this system so super cool. We're going to use a subwoofer enclosure provided by SuperCrewSound.com, and since this system is going to require a lot more juice from our battery, we're also going to upgrade that using a yellow top deep cycle battery from OPTIMA batteries. Now, we've added so many aftermarket products to our project truck here that our stock F-150's battery just can't keep up with the load that we need. Plus, it's just a mess. We've got all these wires that are going to the battery and the terminals are all full. We can't add anything more at this point. So to solve that problem, OPTIMA Batteries hooked us up with this yellow top deep cycle battery right here, which is going to give us a higher, more consistent voltage under load, which is perfect for mobile audio applications like the one that we're about to install. It comes with a bunch of adapters right out of the box, so this battery will fit most vehicles. Now, to solve our spaghetti problem, we've got these monster cable terminals right here, which will go right on the battery and give us 3 additional posts to hook up all of our cables. Now, I went ahead and removed one of the stock F-150 XLT speakers to show you how crappy these things are. They're flimsy, they've got paper cones, they just don't sound good. It's just horrible. So part of our upgrade that we've got is this subwoofer enclosure. It's a 10-inch from SuperCrewSound.com. What's going to go inside there is this S10 10-inch subwoofer from Alpine. To connect all this, we've got this 4-gauge wiring. That's going to go from our battery to both of the amps. We've got 2 sets of those. We've got some 12-gauge wiring. That's going to be used for the subwoofer. And we've got some 16-gauge wire. That's going to be used for all the component speakers and the tweeters. Now, right here, we've got our mono amplifier. This is going to be used for our subwoofer. We've got a 4-channel amplifier right here. That's going to be used for all of our component speakers. And the great thing about these amps is not only are they small, they look great, but they also stack really well, so they can fit in really tight situations. We've got the Type X top-of-the-line Alpine component system here. It comes with these 2 crossovers, which are really small, these woofers, and these 2 tweeters right here that we're going to mount in the doors. Now, while you can install all of this in your vehicle and it's going to sound really good, Alpine's taking it to the next level with this Imprint audio processor right here, which basically is going to calibrate via computer and this little microphone right here, all the audio within the vehicle itself to give you that home audio sound. And it's going to take into consideration all the obstacles such as the seats that you've got and all the materials that absorb and reflect sound, and it's just going to sound incredible. So we're looking forward to putting all this in there and see what it does. Now, for this installation, you're going to need some plastic door panel removal tools, a ratchet with an extension, various sockets, some wire strippers, and some wire cutters. I recommend you get some fairly large ones because you're going to have to cut those big 4-gauge wires that go to the battery. You're going to need some wire crimpers, some dikes, some butt connectors for some of the wiring. You're going to need a Dremel tool, a Phillips screwdriver, and a power drill. So the subwoofer enclosure from SuperCrewSound.com comes with just about everything you need, including these speaker terminals down here. But you do need to connect up your wire inside the box. We're going to use this 12-gauge wire right here. I'm going to strip it and crimp it with these connectors, which will go on inside, and then connect the other end to the speaker. So once you've got this connected inside the box, connected to the speaker itself just by pushing down on these terminals, pushing in the cable just like that. Then mount your speaker in the enclosure and drill your pilot holes. and then screw it on down. Then wrap up the installation of your subwoofer in the enclosure by putting on this screw cover right here. Now, we already spent about a day doing all the pre-wiring for the amplifiers and the speakers, and we recommend you do the same. Take your time when you're doing these things. Now, we've already got the subwoofer enclosure all put together, so now we're going to hit the door speakers and install those in the stock location here and the tweeter up in here. In order to remove the stock speaker, we're going to need to remove this door grill here and this switch panel. But in order to do that, I recommend that you get some of these plastic trim removal tools so that you don't scratch your door. You can get them online for about 20 bucks. As you can see, our pre-wiring is right here, our 16 gauge wire for the tweeter as well as the mid-range. Now, the stock wiring harness for that speaker that we just removed, we're not going to use that anymore, so we want to zip tie that down inside so it stays away from the window. Now, this tweeter here is going to go in a factory location. Unfortunately, this tweeter is a little bit too big. So what we need to do is we need to Dremel that hole out a little bit. So use one of the rings that they give you and trace an outline. And take a Dremel and enlarge that hole a little bit. To install the mid-range in the door, Alpine's provided a bunch of adapter rings, and they fit most vehicles. This one is perfect for this F-150 because if this speaker were to go in there just like that, there's going to be all these gaps. So the speaker sits inside this adapter ring and then goes inside the door. But in order for that to happen, I've got a couple of these little black tabs here that I'm going to need to cut off. So just grab some dikes or something, just cut those guys off like that. And then we're going to mount that right into the door next. Using a 732 socket, put the stock screws into the adapter ring. So now we've got that mounted, we'll go ahead and wire up the speaker here. Now to connect this tweeter here, I've got to cut these ends off, and I'm going to use these butt connectors to connect these two wires. Now we've got the tweeter and the mid-range hooked up. I'm going to put them into the door, and then you can pop the paneling back on. So as you can see, we've got this big hot mess of wires here. We've got our 3 speaker cables here. We've got our 2 4-gauge cables that come from the battery, and we've got our cables that come from the head unit. But next thing we need to do is we need to get our mid-range into this door here. And in order to do that, we've got to pop off this panel. There's going to be a bolt there. Got to pop off this piece. There's going to be 2 bolts there. This got to come off because there's 1 bolt in there. And then way down here on the bottom of the door, there's 2 bolts. We've got to get those off as well. Now there's a tab on the back of the door handle here that's going to release it from the door panel. The mid-range speaker's on the door. I'm going to put the door panel back on. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. All the door speakers are now hooked up, so now it's time for the subwoofer. Got your negative and your positive terminals here. This guy is just going to lie down right underneath this seat like that. All right, you know that big hot mess down here I keep talking about? Well, this is only half the battle. The other half's down here on the floor. And now we got to hook all that up to these amps, the Imprint audio processor, and these two crossovers. So I'm going to get that done, and I'll show you what we've got next. Now Jason and I just spent the last hour hooking up all these cables for the speakers and the amps and the crossovers, and it's just all down here on the floor, just kind of real loose. We're not going to secure these to the floor and hide all these cables until we've tested everything out. So for now, we're going to move up to the head unit, and we're going to hook up some cables to the head unit, and then we've got two 4-gauge cables that are going to go to the battery. And once we've got all that tested, then we'll secure this down and hopefully wrap things up. Now, if you're a frequent viewer of Motorz TV, you're familiar with this whole process, which is on an F-150, removing the surround of the radio is pretty easy. Just pop up from the bottom. This one's been taken off so many times it comes off real easy. So I'll remove this airbag sensor back here. What we need to do now is we need to remove this Alpine head unit. We need to connect a couple of the cables that we've already pre-wired down here on the bottom and set a couple of switches on the bottom so that it knows that the Imprint is going to be controlling the audio. Now that I've got the head unit removed, it's time to hook everything up to it. And there's two switches on the bottom here. They need to be changed to the EQ div setting on both of these. Then the next thing is that the Imprint cable, it's this cable right here, would normally come and go right into the head unit, but since I've got the Sirius satellite radio interface box, it's got to go into that. Next thing I had to do is we need to get audio from the head unit, from the Blackbird 2, back to the Imprint. And that's done through this RCA cable that we snaked up the side and plugged into this box that we got. And then finally, we need a remote wire here. That goes all the way back to the amplifiers, so that the head unit tells the amplifiers when to power up and power down. Now that we've got everything wired up, I'm going to go ahead and turn it on, see if the lights come on. There we go. Now let's see if we get some audio through this system. Oh yeah, that sounds good. Okay, we're going to mount everything to the floor now. This mono amplifier is going to go down first, and since these things can stack, we'll remove these little top pieces here. And I'm going to mount this down to the floor. And then the 4-channel amp is going to sit on top of that and screw right down into those. So it'll kind of look like that when it's all done. So once you've got the first amp screwed down to the floor, you need to put in this plastic adapter ring so that you can piggyback these amps on top of each other. So once you've got that on there, mount the second amp on top, then you can screw those down. And mount this little cap right on top. And tighten with the Allen wrench that they give you. All good to go. So with the amps finally mounted to the floor of the truck, we tucked all these wires beneath the back seats. Once we close it, actually looks like a nice clean installation from up front here. Alpine's Imprint Sound Manager software runs on Windows XP and connects to the Imprint interface box via a mini USB cable. Once the software is loaded and you select an area to be measured or tested for sound, it will instruct you where to place the supplied microphone. Be sure the vehicle is in a quiet area with the windows rolled up and the engine turned off. In order for the test to complete successfully, there must be no outside sound. Once the test begins, you will hear a warble tone pattern from each speaker sequentially, which gradually gets louder. Be sure not to open the doors or make any noise until the software indicates the measurement is complete. Now that sounds awesome. Now, even though the installation is pretty straightforward, some things can get a little bit tricky, especially with the Imprint audio processor tuning and all the gain levels on the amplifiers and the crossovers. So if you're unfamiliar with those kinds of things, take it to an authorized Alpine dealer and have them install the whole setup for you. For more information on Alpine Electronics, go to alpine-usa.com, and Optima batteries, go to optimabatteries.com. Now, if you're looking for a subwoofer enclosure for your pickup truck, go to SuperCrewSound.com. That does it for this episode. For more of our installation videos, go to www.motorz.tv, and please be sure to subscribe to our podcast on Apple iTunes. You ready, Jason? Because I don't believe you are. And wrap up the installation of the subwoofer in the enclosure with this ringy thing. A Dremel tool, a Phillips screwdriver. Push them out of the way, and you're gonna have to stand there and just take it like a man. I'm Chris Duke, and you're gonna get hit with a bunch of Alpine boxes. I'm Chris Duke. I'm Chris Duke. I'm Chris Duke. I'm Chris Duke, and you're not gonna get hit with boxes. For more of our videos, go to motorz.tv. Blah, 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 I screwed up, okay? Zip!